Welcome to the Mile 99 interview series. My name is Paulo Medina and I am your co host. And today I am broadcasting from Truckee, California. Today I left Auburn and I came up to enjoy the sunshine up here in Truckee with my family. And I am outside because my family is pretty loud. It, um, but yes, the Mile 99 interview series is basically a list of interviews with local runners that basically have notable presence in the community, and we would like to share their experience and their knowledge with everybody else. And I am here with my co-host, Greg Larkin. And Greg, it looks like you're muted. It's up.
I'm all
And go ahead, Greg.
right. Thanks a lot, Paula. And thanks everybody for joining episode 6. And like Paula said, we're meeting weekly, talking to some local ultra runners, getting some great knowledge, some stories, and all kinds of interesting information from them. So I'm broadcasting from Auburn, and tonight we have Meghan Laws, one of our well-known ultra runners in the greater Auburn area. And if I'm not mistaken, right across the canyon in cool California, if that's correct.
Yeah.
So one side of the canyon to the other, joined by trails, as a lot of us are. And so tonight we also have Mike Turner. He's going to be monitoring our Zoom chat session, as well as our Facebook live stream for any questions, comments, other things. So as we're in the session here, we're going to have live Q&A later with Meghan from the audience. So please feel free to think of some questions, send them off to Mike. He'll collect them and then call on you or read them to us later in the show. So keep those things coming. So, Meghan, I mean, I looked through your questionnaire that you filled out for us. Obviously, a lot of us are very familiar with you in terms of your Western States experience, that sort of thing. Anyone who isn't, you're just a perennial top 10 finisher. You've started, I think your first one in 2006 all the way up to 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Sub 24, like every time you've been in it, just some amazing results. So I just want to kind of set the stage for everybody if you're not familiar with Meghan and some of her exploits. And just in general, like a competitor all the way from 50K to 100K, you're a member of Team USA, very experienced 100-miler. To me, and looking through your ultra sign up, I don't see any DNFs in there. So to me, my sense is like this runner, she is tough. She is an extremely tough competitor. Would you agree with that assessment? And if so, like what intrinsically do you have in you that makes you, feel like you're like a tough runner and a tough competitor?
Yeah, I would say I'm a tough runner, not necessarily a tough competitor. I generally go to a race because I'm gonna finish it. I don't even have that in my list of options of dropping. I do have one DNF, and it was UTMB in 2014, but I had some anemia issues. But other than that, oh no, actually I have 2 DNFs. I was injured in the middle of a race last year. So those are, there's a lot of things you can overcome in a race. Stomach blisters, tired, all of the things are basically just problem solving. But I've never gone into a race with that option even there of DNF. It's just not, why even bother if that's on there?
Yeah. I mean, do you, like, you can go into that race feeling that way. Do you ever get into that situation in the middle race or later in the race where it starts creeping in a little bit? And like, if it does, how do you kind of push that out? Like, do you just...
It does occasionally. Yeah. Normally, if that happens, I'm in a race that involves loops or laps. Because in particular, the road 100K is most frequently done on a 10K loop or a 5K loop. In the first 50 or 55K, I feel like, yeah, I've got this. And then you suddenly realize, crap, I'm just halfway done and it's starting to hurt. And so it's challenging, but it's once you get to the start-stop area, you're just going to keep going.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if that's, and I'll let Paul jump in here for a second, but since we're on this topic, I mean, one of the things that I've been really excited about in the last 6 months or so, and just had the opportunity to do one. And then I will be doing another one, hopefully only in 3 weeks, is the backyard ultra format, where you're just that loop every hour on the hour. And how do you keep your mind going, to go out and do that? Have you considered trying one of those? Is that anything of interest to you?
I've absolutely decided I would not like to do that at all. I mean, the 100K is special to me because when I do it, I'm normally competing for TSA and representing the country. It's a much different feel and draw to me than doing a backyard. How many times can I go? And I have done one track 100K, and I don't anticipate ever doing that again. It's just, nah.
Just a combination of physical and mental pain, or
mental. Yeah. I like to go from A to B.
Yep.
That's my favorite, or one giant loop.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that for sure.
So Meghan, looking at your background and the questionnaire that we sent you to learn more about you and for us to prepare for this interview, we learned a little bit about your experience and your kind of background in running and sporting events. And it sounds like growing up you were a part of a very active family, and growing up in rural Oregon you had access to a lot of trails and a lot of outdoors. How do you did that impacted your running career that came later in life? Were you active as a young person? Were you active?
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I didn't run when I was young, but we lived on a farm, and I had horses, and we all had chores and always moving. And then when I was a freshman in high school, Title IX was passed, so that allowed or made it. It was the law that for every high school sport that they had for boys, they had to have an equal number of spots for girls sports. So I got to play volleyball, and I ran. But in track, I was like most kids. I just wanted to do the short, fast stuff. And so I jumped hurdles, which I was not very good at. But I always participated in whatever sport I could.
So basically, for those out there, including myself, that was not familiar with the Title IX that was passed in 1972, is basically sports were not, or females were not as eligible for certain sports as males were, right?
Correct. In fact, the 1984 Olympics was the first time that women were allowed in the marathon. It was thought that up until some point that women running a marathon, their uterus would drop. So it was not until 1980 that women were allowed, and that's the year Joan Benoit won the Olympic marathon.
It's incredible to think that only in 1984 women were allowed to be part of the Olympics, but events like Western states were allowing women to participate much earlier, and we're running much farther. It's so that goes to say that sometimes we all just have to have an open mind to women know their own body, and they probably know better than the guys, right? Just probably. Right?
Absolutely. Sure, probably. Hope so.
So it's based on your history of running. It sounds like running became in your mid-20s as part of just a way to stay fit. And Meghan, you and I have. Go ahead.
So I dabbled in it a little bit. I played 1 year of volleyball in college, but I just didn't have time to do that. And but I always wanted to be in shape, so I kept sort of falling into running, but I wouldn't stick with it for very long. But then when I was 25, I had my daughter, and that became really to do the quickest, most efficient thing. And that was put on your running shoes, go outside and run for 30 minutes and come back. And over time, that just kind of became my default.
Okay. Great.
Excellent. Yeah. So, I mean, as you did that, you know, was there a point at which you then decided, like, this is my lifetime sport? This is the thing that is going to fit my life the best, or I'm the best, you know, at it, something along those lines? Was there sort of a light bulb moment, or was that just sort of like a gradual thing that happened along the way?
I think it was just gradual. You know, back in the 80s, there were, you know, a 5K every now and then, or every now and then. So it wasn't nearly the madness that it is now. So I ran to stay in shape, and then every now and then I would run a 5K, and I liked it. I liked that competitive aspect and the ability to test myself. I've always liked to find out. I've always been curious, and I still am very curious, and that's one of the things that keeps me going is at my age, how long can I keep going at a pretty high level?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely one of the things that I'm interested in hearing more about, because, you know, I'm in my early 50s. I was a bike racer from my teens all the way up to my, you know, mid 40s, I guess, something like that. And then I found trail running. And so I have no idea, like, how long I will do this, you know, in terms of my body feeling okay and my joints. And, you know, people always say, oh my gosh, like, aren't your knees shot? Mine are shot. I'm only 40.
Favorite question.
You know,
that question.
That sort of thing, right? And so I don't know, in a way I sort of feel like lucky, maybe because I came to it later in life. Maybe I haven't worn things down as much. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, but you've been doing it since, you know, your 20s, you said, and, you know, some before that. And so, I mean, have you thought about that? Have you noticed changes over that period of time with obviously with recovery perhaps, but just in general, like the physical elements of your joints and everything else? Like, how is that stuff sort of maintaining over your whole career?
It seems to be fine. I get little niggles like everybody, and I always have. And I've had probably when I was in my late 30s was when I was getting to my injuries, and they were overuse injuries, lack of understanding how the mechanics worked. So yeah, I would get this tendonitis and be 6 weeks off here and 6 weeks off there. And I generally didn't have anything repeat itself, which was good. And then I was about to actually throw in the towel in my late 40s because I had this ongoing hip pain, and I was just tired of dealing with the pain. But I found a really good physical therapist who just really undid a lot of damage and got me going on the right track. And I went to her for a number of years when I still lived in Oregon. And even when I go to Oregon to visit my daughter, I'll stop in and have an appointment. Nice. But yeah, it turned things back on to really running healthy. Yeah, I mean, I get little niggles every now and then, or yeah, I'm tired or sore or whatever, but generally nothing major.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I sort of fell into my routine with one of our local businesses, Monsters of Massage, and I can't wait till they reopen. You know, because I had plantar fasciitis for like 18 months at one point a couple of years ago, and I could not get rid of that to save my life. I just couldn't figure out what to do. And then on the recommendation of another runner, went there and experienced some severe pain at every appointment for 5 weeks, and then it started turning around. So like once you find that specific modality, I guess, that works for you, yeah, it sounds like it pays to kind of keep it going. And so at this point, I mean, what other things are you doing now to kind of like maintain, you know, on a regular basis, you know, after workouts, or, you know, for extra recovery? Are there anything specific you do, and then outside help as well, if, you know, if that other PT isn't available?
If I get something that's kind of an itis, I will go to a local PT, and they'll usually, you know, find a weakness that I can work on, a few PT exercises. I was going to the gym last year around this time for a while, good strength, with Jody Wood. She really helped me a lot. And then the last few months I haven't been going because I live on, or my husband and I live on property. We got 7 acres and we've been clearing brush. And so I've been doing a lot of actual just good old fashioned physical labor.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I don't really stretch. Occasionally it feels good, but yeah. So I'm
So,
not high maintenance.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah.
so Megan, when you started running those 5Ks and 10Ks occasionally in the mid 80s, were you naturally fast for them? Did you just started running and be like, oh, wow, I can perform faster than other people in my age group or overall?
Well, it's I was decently fast at the 5K, like right at 20 minutes without really knowing what I was doing. But I was really drawn to longer distances. And I had a friend who was training for an Ironman. And she, just a tiny little thing. And I thought, wow, she's so little. um, but I trained with her, and I did my first 20-mile run with her. And then I did 2 more with her because she was, getting ready for Ironman.
Mhm.
And after those, I thought, well, shoot, I should just go to a marathon. I've done some 20-mile
The
runs.
training.
Yeah. And I also go in with the mindset is I wanted to do it at 7:10 pace. I can't even remember why I picked 7:10, but I did. And first marathon in 3:10.
Ooh.
Because I said I don't like to do things to finish them. It's not, to me, that's not a reason to go to, I want to go see finish, not how I operate. It's like, I want to go, I want to be trained. I want to go with a particular goal, particular pace, and I'm going to go for it. And that really hooked me, because if you take my best marathon time and then use the charts in the books, or what I say, they predict my 5K time is way faster than I can run a 5K. So it's my strength is in the longer stuff.
I can agree with you. I never really like those one formula fits all.
Right.
It's yes, it's yeah, they're really depressing for me at least. It's but yeah, everybody's different, and it's I'm glad that you find your thing, which is the longer distances. So otherwise, our lives may have not crossed paths.
That's right.
But it's so from the 80s and you running your first marathon, how do we go from there to basically running Western States 12 times, participating in the USA team? How do it's how do we go from that point to where we
Well,
are now?
yeah, so I was mostly training and living in Corvallis, Oregon. And in 96, I think it was, and I'd already run a few marathons. And there's a guy there who was putting on a 50K, which I hadn't even heard of. What's a 50K? What's an ultra? And it was, in the 90s, they still weren't that popular. So I trained for that one, and I did it and I hated it, because it was basically like doing formidable for your first 50K when really all you want to do is run fast on the roads. And so I actually abandoned the whole idea of doing ultras. The other reason was I didn't like running in the dark. It scared me. That comes from being a kid and, having to do chores in the dark and being terrified. But I saw one of the West States, the one with Jen Pfeiffer on the cover. I always forget which one it is, but it was good. It's great. One of Anne's many wins. And just watching that and watching her running on the trails in the beautiful country, I just I need to get over my fear of running in the dark, because I want to do this. So I went back to doing a 50K in 2003, and I loved it. And it was a more runnable one. It was the Siskiyou Outback in Ashland, and that was like 2003. So 2004, I upped the ante and did a 50 mile. In 2005, I did my first 100K. So I really spread it out, and I just was very gradual about each distance. In 2006, I put my name into the lottery and got in to Western States, and just
Wow.
kept getting better. Yeah,
Just like
right.
that.
I was the
Yes.
fourth name called.
Nice.
Wow. Those times. Only we could go back in time.
Yeah.
Is yeah. That's great. It's great to, for you to help us paint the full picture of how we can go from running 5Ks to finishing top 10 times at Western State. So, we still have hope for everybody out there.
Absolutely. Everybody has hope.
And
That's why we
Yes.
start line.
Yes. First, we just gotta get a qualifier, and then wait about 14 years to get in.
Yeah. Don't die before that.
right.
Yes.
Or age out.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you, I know that you've spoken about, I mean, you're a coach, and you've in our previous discussions before the interview here with the questionnaire, just talking about coaching in general, and that's something that you highly recommend, and you have a coach. And so have you had a coach like throughout that whole time, and like how long have you worked with one? Have you had different ones? What types of styles have they had?
Yeah, so the first coach I had was in Oregon, and his name's Warren Fink, and he was actually a really good ultra runner, but I was really just wanting to work on the marathon because my times were close to being fast enough to work on getting towards an Olympic trials qualifier. And he was great. He built my aerobic engine like crazy, and I did so much, just lots of miles, and the speed work was all on training. It had nothing to do with 5K or 10K. And I worked with him for probably, let's say 8 years. And then as I got more interested in ultras, I decided to just go on my own for a while. And I was working out with Craig Thornley a lot of the time, just sort of was mentored by him.
Ooh.
But
some random guy. We may have talked to him about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. And then I had another coach who I was starting to feel like I just needed some structure again for speed work. I'm great with the distance, but I asked a guy who lived in Bend, who he coached high school cross country, and so I knew he knew a lot of workouts, and he was a friend, and so he coached me for maybe 3 or 4 years with a couple of speed workouts a week, and that was great, just having that structure, so I don't have to think about it. And then I had Ian Torrance for a while, for about a year. And I really liked him because I gave him everything. I was doing too much mileage, and I was not recovering well. So he brought me off of that high mileage, and I did real well with him. And I talked to him, I said, I kind of want to do some coaching myself. And he was super supportive. And he said, the most important thing coaching is communication. Is having a relationship with your runners. And so I started off in 2012, I think 2012 or 2013, and I was still working with him. And then I said, Ian, if I'm doing this for other people, I can do it for myself. Well, I'm still not good at that. I still want to overachieve everything and put big schedules down. I'll do them, but then I don't recover. And that went on for probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 years. I didn't have a coach. And I was just like, I'm tired. I'm just tired. I'm not doing well. So I hired Stephanie Howe to coach me, and it's been great. I've been feeling really good. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Stephanie is a great runner. She's got so much knowledge when it comes to nutrition, and she's not just a nutritionist, but is also a professional runner that is coaching other people. So it's a full package.
Yep.
So talking about big races and big accomplishments, it's you've done some racing outside of the United States, including a few world championships for the USA team, and as well as UTMB. I know you did some races in, I want to say, China a few years ago. It's so can you share with us what difference what differences have you seen from the races and the racing style in United States versus other countries, whether it's Asia or Europe?
Yeah, in Europe, of course, I've only in the trail world, I've done UTMB full time, one DNF, one finish, and then one short finish because it was a storm, and it was massive in terms of the number of participants, and that was hard mentally to be surrounded by so many people, pretty much. Well, the entire time. It's like
Mhm.
it's hard to focus on what you're doing in terms of your own effort and focusing on eating. It's a little harder than the typical small number race, number of people in races that we have here in the U.S. I tend to feel a little frantic. It's definitely something to work on. The road 100Ks that I've done for Team USA, those are a little easier to manage. They're not as big. Each country can have 6 men and 6 women. And there's, so basically a couple hundred men, 100 women, and we're all out there together all day long. So that's much easier to manage that. In China, the races I went to were pretty small. They're trying to develop ultra running in the country. So these were pretty small races just to try to get interest going in those.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Hong Kong, I guess the UTWT races, except for Western states, are all pretty big in terms of participants.
Okay.
So it's just, you
Well,
have to kind of get your head around.
well, Western States is limited by its own cap
Oh yeah,
on the
absolutely.
participants, because every year, if they had an open-ended participation number, we know that
It'd be like
it
yeah.
will be much larger than all the other ones out there. It's yeah, one of my biggest shocks or kind of something that took me by surprise doing UTMB, because I did expect the climbs to be overly large. I did expect that the trails to be overly crowded. What I did not expect was the overly fast start.
It's crazy.
It's incredible. I mean, you are
Dangerous.
right there. They count down, and like doing Western States, I let everybody pass me at the start because it's it's a fire road. There's only 300 people, 369 people. It's okay to get to the shoulder. You're like, you know what? We're 2/10 of a mile in. There's no reason why I gotta fight this hill.
Yeah.
But UTMB, there is what 3,000 people behind you. It's and I think the lead start, they're low 5-minute miles at the beginning. It's like I was maybe like I could see the front maybe
Mm-hmm.
200 yards in front of me, and I was doing 6:10. And if I
Yeah.
didn't do 6:10, you get run over.
Right.
It's so you
It's
either
crazy.
keep up or
Yeah.
step out. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy. I remember like someone dropped a pole right away, and there's no way you can stop and get it. It's
bye
just
bye.
gone, and somebody's glasses flew off, and like, well, they don't have their glasses now, and this guy's only got one trekking pole. Oh well, yeah, it's crazy.
Yes, I do. I do have to say that I wish they gave a mandatory requirement of trekking pole education.
Yeah,
It's because everybody thinks it's a lightsaber. No, it's not a lightsaber. It's right. Everybody turns around with that thing and it's sticking out of your armpit, and you're like, what?
yeah,
And
yep,
like, oh, my eyeball.
right,
Right.
right. They're
Yes.
swinging their arms out with them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but and the amount of spandex, incredible. Uh,
Solomon.
I never seen so many dudes wearing spandex. I
Hey,
know.
you should come to a bike race. I'd be used to that.
Yes, I have seen that in the bike race,
Oh yeah,
but just
not in a trail race.
yes, yes, yeah, but so when it comes to aid stations, these races, when you were racing in Asia, like Hong Kong and China, and you come into an aid station, do the volunteers are fluent in English. Like I did a race in Quebec, Canada, which is not very far from United States,
Mhm.
and there were a couple volunteers that do not speak English, and I do not speak French.
Right.
It's right. At the end, I just went around the table. And I was like, I need this, I need this. Bye.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you learn a lot of sign language in any country because you'll inevitably have a language barrier. Yeah, in France, it's generally pretty. Italy, not so much. In Spain, also, English isn't quite as widespread. In China, the I just generally don't really talk to people that much in aid stations. I look to see what I want to get, and I acknowledge and thank people in a way that looks like I'm saying thank you. um, but yeah, you just have to sort of look and see what you want and get it. Yeah.
Highly efficient aid station visitor, it sounds like. Then I think that's
Well, sometimes I'm too efficient because like I'll have in my mind, okay, I need these three things, and then I'll run out with only two of them, and I'll never turn around and go back, even if it's only been 10 yards. It's like, oh shoot, I forgot so and so, and I just keep going and try to get.
Yeah, just always press forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's certainly for me, like as a fairly new ultra runner, just managing aid stations better. I think that's something I can always use improvement on. I've tried, like, I think I did Formidable 50K. I think that was the only race I've done this year before things shut down. And I tried to be really fast through there, but don't look at my stop time at TRT last year. It's pretty embarrassing. So.
Well, 100 milers are a little bit, you can take a little more time.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of 100 milers, obviously, your Western States career, do you've run it many times, obviously, and we talked about that a little bit. Do you see yourself going back there at all? Or are you sort of?
Oh yeah. My name's in the lottery. And
all right. Yeah.
I'm running those golden ticket races just in case,
Excellent.
a bunch of people don't show up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love that race. I do it every year.
Excellent. That's good to know. Cause I know some people I've talked to are kind of, like I'll do it once or twice. And then I think, that'll probably be it. I want to try some other things, but I also, like just looking back on, again, I'm touching on my bike racing more, and I did that for a lot longer than I've done ultra running. So I have more experience to think about there. And there were these kind of like, races that were just regular every year, like you're going to do that race, and it was kind of comforting because you all kind of go back to that place and all see each other again. It's like a little reunion every year. So I have to believe Western States is very much like that, just having been a spectator and crew for that race.
It very much is. Yeah.
So that's a really nice feature of it as well. Excellent. So one of the things that, we're all experiencing, and the reason we're doing this is the pandemic. And so I just wanted to kind of just touch on a few things there, ask you, how your motivation has been, how you've changed your training, just kind of like mentally how you've been dealing with things. Because I know a lot of us are just having a lot of different experiences with, how strict do I need to be? And, who can I run with, or should I run alone? Or, things are opening again. What should I do? How have you approached all that? Like from basically the beginning to, up to now, and then I can ask you something else after you answer that.
Okay. I've been following the guidelines pretty well, the shelter in place. I think I went over 4 weeks without even driving across the canyon. I'm fortunate to live where I live because I can drive 3 miles in 3 different directions and get on the Western States Trail. And I also have the fortune of living close to somebody who has also been sheltered in place and is a runner, and I feel safe running with her. And I actually went off Strava because I didn't want people to. I wouldn't expect any shaming or anything like that, but I also didn't want to, it almost feels like bragging that you got to go running, and I didn't want to have people feel like they're missing out, because they are, it's unfortunate. So, and in terms of racing, I love to race, but it's, the whole running training thing is just a lifestyle. It's not like I would quit running if I could never race again. The racing is like this gift you get now and then. But I will say that having train now on time without a race, I feel probably stronger than I would if I had done more racing, because you don't have that big exertion and then you recover and then you start back up again. And it's pretty much how I used to race. When I started doing marathons, I did 1 marathon a year and I thought that was a lot. And then I gradually got up to 2 a year, and, you know, so I could get a little bit better. And I guess I've done 100 miles twice in 1 year. So I'm not a, I don't want to just run hundreds just because they're there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be very unsatisfying for me.
Mm.
So, you know, this isn't that different. And also I've always, since I've moved here, I've worked from home. So I'm not missing that interaction of driving to an office and seeing people, because I interact at least through email every day.
Okay. Yeah. So it's sort of similar. I mean, I work remotely for a company up in Oregon, in Portland, you know, so like my day to day didn't change in that sense either, you know, fortunate for that, but I can definitely identify with, you know, the people in my office who suddenly found themselves kind of at home, like for the first time ever in their careers, and huge adjustment for a lot of people. And like you said too, I mean, just, you know, with having a lot of the parking closed downs and the shelter in place restrictions, and if people, you know, followed them, then they may not get up to some of the trails that they always wanted to run on. And yeah, I mean, yes, you are fortunate, you in the bigger sense, like if you live near things that you can access, you know, either walking or short drive or something like that. But yeah, it's obviously been tough for a lot of people. And I think, at least in my case, and I hope, I would say a lot of people either in the session here watching on Zoom, I mean, this is our therapy in a lot of ways, and it helps us just dissipate that energy every day. And do you find that as well, just, you know, in terms of just like mental state, like getting out for that run or workout or whatever, like how does that help you?
Yeah, that's always been true. I feel like at the end of a run, I'm a different person than I was when I started the run, pretty much every time. Just good old brain chemicals, you know?
Yeah.
And I can have a day where I'm just completely spaced out, or I can sort through problems on my run, or I once said this on another interview, and it's kind of cracks me up, but I call running my friend. You know, it's always there. You know, you're mad or you're sad, you know, you're crying or you're happy. It's always there. So yeah. Usually feel better afterwards. So.
And the flexibility of being, sorry, Paul, just the flexibility of like road or trail. Like you can, you know, ideally, you know, you live in a place where even if you had to, you couldn't get to a trail, you can run out your front door and still be on a road or something that you can, you know, find.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
So with the context that, you know, running is always there, and running is your friend, whether you're happy or sad or it's hot or cold. Running is pretty treat us all the same, right? So with that, I mean, I guarantee you that if anybody has gone for a run, at some point they're going to go for a bad run, right? So regardless of who you are, whether you're a male or a female, at some point it's going to happen. So with the Mile 99 interviews, we always want to also give our interviewees the opportunity to talk about subjects that is important for them. And with Meghan, one of the subjects that she wants to talk about, it's and we all want to talk about because it is a very reality for all of us. And with the recent protests after the murder of George Floyd, we want to talk about what do you think that we as a community can do to be more inclusive with everybody out in the running community in general. What do you see from an outside perspective and a member of the community that we can do to make it better?
Yeah, that's one reason I put that question down, is just to get dialogue and input from others in the community. As you know, where we live it's so predominantly white that trying to you know, integrate, diversify, and, you know, bring in people of color, indigenous people, brown people. It's hard when there aren't that many around to do that, I personally started looking around, like, just like what organizations, because I'm a runner, I thought, okay, there's lots of activities in the world that are very white dominated, especially in athletics, especially in snow sports and rock climbing and mountaineering, and things that cost a lot of money are predominantly white. And how do we, get diversity into our sport? And my feeling is that we get as many young people involved as possible, introduce them to, for me, it's like introduce people of color to trail running, and kids especially. And it's like, well, where am I even going to find people of color because of where I live? So I did, I started searching around, and I found one organization that struck me right away, and it's called Black Girls Run. And they're a nationwide nonprofit, and they have chapters around the country. And I found there's one in Sacramento. So I got on Facebook, I joined, and I haven't joined the Facebook. I'm waiting to be accepted because, I'm this white girl, but I would love to mentor young girls. I coached high school cross country, and it's like one of the favorite jobs I ever had was just mentoring young girls in running, and to help, I don't want to be like some white savior or anything, because that's not the point, but I would love to be involved in even mentoring other coaches to get girls involved and get them introduced to trail running. I mean, right now their main goal is to introduce a healthy lifestyle for Black girls so that they don't grow up unhealthy. But I like to take it a step further and like, well, let's introduce them to trail running, because eventually some of them will become ultra runners, and we can make our sport of ultra running more inclusive, more diverse. That's all I've got so far. Yeah.
That's thank you for taking the lead on submitting that question and that subject, because it is a big subject that many people want to ignore.
Oh, sure.
And not necessarily they want to ignore it because they're not interested, but because it is a difficult subject to talk about. It is a reality for every minority in the United States, and it's got to start somewhere. And creating a dialogue is the best thing. And I like the approach that you're taking, because it's true. It's a hard thing to incorporate minorities into the sport. We can all wish to do that, but if the minorities are not available in our communities to do that, it's never going to happen. So we have to make the effort outside of our area and introduce them to this area. Like myself, I recently been talking to people in Auburn in regards of the current situation when it comes to protests and certain changes they want to see. And the number, I believe in Auburn as a city, there's only 3% of people of color. It's and this is African American, and I believe 4% of Hispanics in Auburn. So both together are 7%. So the other 93% is white. So it's a very difficult thing when you want to create a organization or a group that invite these minorities to join your activity. But we have to step outside of our areas to invite them in, right? It's I myself, I was born and raised in Peru. It's and that's no secret to anybody. I'm very, very proud Peruvian. I'm a very proud immigrant. It's and I ended up in Auburn because of the trails. It's if it wasn't for the trails, I wouldn't have found my wife. I wouldn't have the family I have or the life that I have now. So it's every little thing that we can do to introduce them to the outdoors, and eventually Auburn or any other communities it will expose him to take the leap into those communities and
Yeah.
eventually create more inclusive and diverse communities, right?
Right. Right. And I mean, honestly, we're not that far from a big city,
No.
and there's plenty of, or there's much more diversity in the big cities.
And
And they could benefit from, everybody can benefit from running on a trail. So
absolutely.
That's it.
It's pretty much saved me at various times, that's for
right.
sure,
Yeah.
and I'm sure for a lot of people. One thing I'm wondering is, what do you think that some of the sponsors can do? Because, national level types of efforts that they could be making. Like, have you seen any changes yet with running
Oh,
sponsors and that sort of thing?
yeah. So yeah, I run for the North Face, and that's been the primary target of our town. We have town hall meetings every Thursday, and as soon as the George Floyd murder happened, all our focus went onto Black Lives Matter and what can we do to, make people be aware of not just not being racist, but being anti-racist. And I mean, it is an ongoing dialogue every week, and the North Face has continued to up their support for social causes, also through the pandemic. I think I posted on Facebook today the amount of money that they are giving out to this global effort to help people in all of these situations. And really, their focus is equality for all and equality for the use of outdoor space, because we're all part of the outdoor nation. So they've been phenomenal so far. And I know other sponsors are too, and donating money to different subgroups of Black Lives Matter or that sort of thing. Yeah.
That's great to hear. Yeah. And yeah, so it sounds like they're getting input, I mean, from their athletes, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's really
And
great.
it's been interesting, because that's when I was saying that a lot of our sports are so dominated by white people. Especially true in the snow community and the climbers. They're like, we hardly have any colored people at all, and it bothers them. What can we do? So it's been really, really good conversations.
Great. Excellent.
Well, Megan, one thing, and just so we can move on to the other part of our interview. Once you get more involved with this organization, with Black Girls Run, please let me know what we can do from Single Truck Running or the store. We will
Okay.
be happy. We'll be happy to host a day with them. We'll be happy to set up an aid station out on the trails, or create a
Okay.
route, get in contact with the state park.
Okay.
So please utilize our
Great.
knowledge and location for whatever you need. Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. That'd be great.
So Mike, it's Mike is being letting us know that there's a lot of people out in the world watching us and paying attention to everything that we've learned today, and they have a lot of questions. So Mike, you want to go ahead and fill it in?
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. So let's start with Jessica. Let's start with Eddie here. Let me find where Eddie's at here on the list here. Unmute him. Here he is here. Hold on a second here. Hey Eddie, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now.
Hi. Okay. Thank you. Hey, thanks, Paulo and Greg and Mike, for putting this on. Good to see you again, Megan.
Hi,
So
Eddie.
I don't remember my exact question, but it's kind of a general question, like the staples in your nutrition plan that keeps you recovered, that is maybe a testament of your longevity in the sport. Can you summarize that?
Sure. I eat food. I don't, I eat healthy food. I eat whole, pretty much whole foods. I guess I could go through my breakfast is rice with eggs and avocado. Lunch is usually maybe a burrito, a bean burrito or something, or leftover spaghetti and meatballs from the night before. You know, pizza once a week, grilled meat for dinner with, you know, either mashed potatoes or French fries that I make, and salad probably most days from the garden. I keep it pretty simple, but pretty whole, I guess. Nothing magic really. I don't restrict things. Yeah, I'm not that drawn to junk food. Not that I don't ever do it, but it's that I crave or anything. Yeah. And beer.
Cheers.
Uh,
So, with junk food, what is your favorite junk food?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. Okay.
oh yeah. So Jessica likes ice cream, right, Jessica?
I do. I love ice cream.
And you have a question next? That's a good
Yeah,
transition.
that was pretty slick there, Mike. Megan, I was just wondering, some races I'm really attracted to and I'll run over and over because I like them so much. And I'm guessing that's why you keep coming back to Western States. But
Yeah,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
your favorite race. It's at
Yep.
home. Yeah.
It's actually why I moved here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I
That's
moved
amazing.
from Oregon. Yeah, I moved from Oregon to be as close to the Western States Trail as I could.
That makes my heart flutter. I love that so much. That's awesome.
I don't know. It sounds kind of stupid, really.
No, not at all. I love that. Thank you.
Hey, Jessica,
Yeah,
you
I
didn't get that excited when you learned that I moved to Auburn because of the trails.
Yeah. I was going to say so.
Well,
Okay, that's okay.
That's good. Adam is on the line with his button down. I like what you're wearing, Adam. Adam has a question.
Hey there, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so Button Down Thursday, I'm participating. Yeah, Kelly started that. And Megan, I live here in Auburn. We've never had the opportunity to meet, but I've heard nothing but wonderful things. And and I want to thank you for your time and for this discussion. My question is, I know a few folks that that you're coaching, and they have all said that the kind of one of the first things that you tell them as a theme is to slow down. And what I was wondering is if you could elaborate on that a little bit, and also if there's any other kind of insights that most runners, you know, tend to overlook. If there's some generic, you know, couple of things, if possible.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. If they haven't been running for many years and have never had like run cross country or track, have not learned how to run easy. But that's like one of the most important runs, is to just slow down, just work on your aerobic engine. If you do fast running all the time, eventually you're going to get burned out and you're probably going to get injured and you're just going to lose interest in that. And you're not really going to get faster. So it's really fun to, actually my first coach taught me that, to, you know, you got to start slowing down. And it was great because I ended up being able to really build my fitness much better that way. And what was your other question?
Are there like a couple of other key insights that are like, these are like the first, you know, 1, 2, 3 things that if you're going to be a great runner, you're probably not thinking about?
That there's no hurry in any of it. There's no reason to, if you start running in January of 2020 and you've never been a runner, there's no point in trying to sign up for a 100-mile race by the end of the year. And that happens. And I'm so, you know, I want to just tell people to be patient, because ultra running is a lifestyle. And then you want to do it the rest of your life. There's no hurry to get to that first 100-mile. And I would take, you know, I'd prefer you take 4 years to get that far at a minimum. So that's my other main piece of advice.
I like it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Hey, Mike, if I can add one thing that I learned from Megan, because I started running with Megan in 2017 when training for Western States, is that Megan told me, run at the pace for the race you're training for. So if Megan and I will go for a run, And since we're training for 100 miles, we will focus on that 100-mile pace, right? Because my train of thought was always, well, I got to go as fast as I can for this 10 miles, and that's going to translate to faster running in 100 miles. And yeah, it's going to translate into really fast 10 miles, but then you still got 90 miles to go. So with Megan, I was able to run my best 50-mile training day from Robinson Flat to the river at a very casual, leisurely pace, and I enjoyed the day so much that I hope to do it again. Right? It's just not anytime soon. But hopefully one day. Yes. So yes, run at the pace for the race you're training for.
That's a good one. Troy is back. Troy's in Minnesota. He's making some crazy concoctions in the background. We don't know back there, but he has a question for Megan.
Am I on?
You're on, Troy.
Hi, Megan. This is Troy, and thank you for addressing the George Floyd. We're just basically. I'm sitting on the board with MTR. That's Minnesota Trail Runners, and we're just literally grabbing for straws. Where do we start? Where do we begin? What can we do?
Yeah.
And this place is literally maybe like the South after the Civil War. I mean, we're just basically in reconstruction mode here. But the question is more technical. My question is more technical. You mentioned speed work. What kind of speed work were you doing, or do you do? Do you do like the Yasu 810, Yasu 800s with a 400-meter recovery, or do you do mile repeats on the street? Are you doing hill repeats on trails? I'm just curious what kind of speed work you do.
I do a variety of things. So basically I'm following, Steph works for Carmichael Training Systems and Jason Coop, and actually I follow a lot of his techniques for coaching athletes as well. So we go through 3 phases of training for the 3 different energy systems. So we do 1 or 2 blocks of VO2 max training, and that can be doing 800s on the track, kind of all out, or hill repeats, 3 minutes hill repeats. We do that, and then we move on to lactate threshold training. So slow it down a little bit, longer intervals, and then the closer we get to, so that'll be for 4 to 8 weeks. Then the closer you get to your event, you're really honing in on the energy system that you're going to be using the most. So it's your steady state running. So yeah, we just keep actually getting longer and a little bit slower as we get closer to doing an ultra. So yeah, a lot of tempo runs.
That's a good. So next we have some questions from Reggie over there hanging out.
Hey, just one question actually, but obviously, Megan, you've done a lot of races, Western States, UTMB. I remember seeing you at Humbolino last year. Do you have a bucket list race that you would still?
Hey, Reggie, it's really hard to hear you. Could you come a little closer?
I'm sorry. I was just asking, do you still have a bucket list race that you would like to do at this point in your ultra running career?
That's a good question, Reggie. I want to go back to UTMB, even though I've done it and I finished, but I have a DNF there. The last time I went was a DNF, so I want to go and I want to have a good day. I don't know that I really have any bucket list races right now. I had a Marathon des Sables and I did it, and it's way off my bucket list now. It's like, that's a one and done. I don't ever want to go back there. Yeah. Oh, well, no, I don't know that. I mean, I guess it's sort of like what Jess said. I really like doing races more than once. I think partly if I choose a really beautiful race, like I've done Tarawera in New Zealand twice, and I've been to New Zealand 6 times, and I absolutely love the place. So I always just want to keep going back. And it was, a beautiful course. So I like to do the ones that I've done before that are really beautiful. Yeah. How about you? What's your bucket list?
Let's get back on here.
Uh-oh.
I think right now I'm just trying to get to a 100-mile distance. So
all right.
I don't think I have a particular race. list, but once I get there, then I'll kind of, I don't know, look for a real bucket list race. So yeah.
All right.
Well,
Good.
working
So-
up to the 100-mile. So you're saying about 4 years?
Sure.
I think a lot
There's
of us
no
on
hurry.
this call are probably guilty of like advancing that a little too quickly.
Yeah.
Case in point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think living in Auburn, even everybody in your neighbor has run 100 miles. So it's hard to not be motivated, you know.
Yeah.
You gotta let go of the FOMO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. That's definitely a big problem.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got Kelly Barber is here, and he has a question.
Kelly.
Let's see if his hold on a second here. Kelly, can you start over, Kelly?
Sure. I think every time you unmuted me, I muted me. Hey, Megan, what's your thought? It seems like when I got into the sport that elites were running, 1 to 2 races a year, and it seems it's got insane with the number of races that some of the higher level athletes are doing per year, especially with your comment on sort of having a year off of feeling stronger. Are people racing too much, or?
There can definitely be the tendency to do that. I know when the UTWT started and people were competing for the top, runner of the year in the tour, they counted 3 races and they scored 3 of your races. And after a couple of years, they decided they were only going to score 2 races because they realized people were over racing and, just getting, they're not recovering. So I think there is generally a little bit of pullback now that maybe, sponsors understand that it's not good to expect your athletes to do that much racing. And people are, I think generally, we don't have a lot of pressure from the North Face to race a lot. We want you to race well when you do, but there's not this pressure that you need to do 3 or 5 humongous races.
Yeah, it's nice to hear sponsors are taking that kind of pressure off, so you guys can focus on just being good athletes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So one more question from Zoom. I got some Facebook questions too, but Melanie on Zoom, you're here. You got a question?
Hey, Megan.
Hey, Melanie.
So my question is, like, I've had to take several months off now, kind of from running, not totally, but just for various reasons, and been feeling really out of shape and really sluggish and not strong and slow. And I'm like right now, like 2 to 3 minutes per mile slower than I used to be. And it's very frustrating for me. So I'm just wondering, like, what your tips are on not only getting back to what I used to be, but like how to deal with like the frustration of it, because it's frustrating.
Yeah, I would first of all stop wearing a watch, stop using Strava. I mean, maybe take a watch so you know how long you're gone, so you know when to turn around and go home.
Yeah.
But I just disconnect from every feedback that's going to tell you something that you don't really want to hear right now, and be patient with yourself. A couple years ago, you were probably as fit as you'd ever been, and there's no reason to believe that you won't be there again, but it's going to be on the time that your body is going to allow you to do it. And there's no pressure to do it. No one's going to stand over you and tell you that you're a failure or something just because you're not running as fast. It's just it's not a measure of your character. It's just this random number thing that we get so hooked up on. So I would just focus on the enjoyment that you get out of the movement of running, and embrace that. And then when you feel like you want to know, go for it. But until you feel that, I just throw the watch away. And also, if you're really tired, I would get blood work done, make sure that you're not missing out on iron or something like that.
Okay.
And Melanie, if I can add a little bit to what Megan said, because I am experiencing what you're going through. I have taken a few years off of running and running competitively. And right now, it's a few years ago, putting a 100-mile week was easy and doable. Where right now, I'm still stuck somewhere near Robinson Flat, and it's 100 miles to Auburn.
Yeah.
And every time I go for a run, it is much slower, and it is seems like much longer, and it takes so much work. And I realized a couple things. One, yeah, I'm building back up, and two, the heat is really working against me because the last couple of days has been like a little bit cooler, and I've been able to run a little bit faster. But when the
Mhm.
heat goes up, I am not only not ready for running, but I'm not ready for running in the heat. So right now, you and I are working against two different things, right? And we're trying to combat both things at once. So just like you, I'm trying to just chill mentally. It's about just, like Megan said, just getting out the door, getting a few miles in. Not necessarily they have to be fast miles. They don't have to be fast miles by any means. They
Mhm.
just have to be enjoyable miles.
Yeah.
So when this heat gets over, once we're through the summer, we're still running. But if you and I try to run like we did before, we're gonna have a really bad experience running that perhaps won't invite us to be running in the fall.
Yeah.
And if as long as you and I just stay active and keep moving along and have a good experience through the summer, we can really get back to running a little bit faster in the fall towards the winter. That's just my two thoughts because Melanie, you and I, trust me, I'm in the same. I'm like, oh my God, I went for 3 miles and I feel like I need a buckle here. Right?
Yeah.
Where's the aid station? So yes, sorry, I keep like butting in, but yes, I feel you. Yes. Go
Thanks,
ahead.
Paulo.
You know, and that's great advice. And I did not exist during the time of ultra running when people just wore a Timex or no watch. So I've only been running for like 5 years, and I've never experienced, you know, just to run, run to just be out there and enjoy the world, enjoy the air. Don't care how fast you are. The passion to run is why we're there in the first place. So I want to leave my watch at home, and I think that maybe we do. Just leave it at home and just enjoy the running part. Yeah. So I have two questions remaining, and they're from Facebook. One is from Brian Goldman, and he said that he first met you, Megan, on the Western States Train and Run. You were volunteering, and you filled his bottle. He had no idea who you was. He was new to running. He says you were so nice and amazing, but he had no idea who you were. But his question is, what is your favorite local trail in the area? Ooh. Hold on, I think you're muted.
There we go. Okay. I muted myself and then I couldn't unmute. What's my favorite local trail?
Yeah, what's your favorite trails around here?
I guess Roby, just around Auburn Lake trails, anything from Cool up to Green Gate, and then on Cal Street. And, you know, Michigan Bluff to Swinging Bridge, all of it.
It sounds like it's Western States related. That's what it is. You know?
Oh, yeah.
70 miles of local trails.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think Dusty Corners is local at this point. So, and the last question is Sri wanted to know for a first-time ultra, what would you recommend for her for like a first-time ultra for her?
I would say Way Too Cool.
Way Too Cool, classic.
Yeah. It's runnable, it's well supported, it's well known, she'll have friends everywhere in it. Yeah, I think that's a good first
That's good advice. And Greg and Paula, that's here.
Yeah, so there is one more question on Zoom from Danny. So let me unmute him. Okay, I can do that. Danny, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Megan, the question I have for you is, as a I don't want to say beginner runner. I've been running for years, but I only tend to do about like 6 to 8 miles. And I run the Roby Point area. How do you advance to become a better runner at longer distances? Like, how do you take that jump to a half marathon to a marathon?
Well, you don't jump, that's for sure. It's like everything. You just gradually increase the first thing I would do is just gradually increase my long run. And if your long run right now is 8 miles on a Sunday, then the next weekend I might run 9 miles, and the next weekend maybe 10, and then from there maybe go up to 12, just very, very gradually, and get up to a good, 20 to 25 mile run. But take your time getting there. That'd be the first thing I would do. Maybe even throw in one more midweek run that's a little more than 6 or 8 miles.
Thank you.
Okay, I think Greg and I were muted.
Back now.
All right. So, Mike, thank you for filling in all those questions. It's and I was working at the backside of this shenanigans because you make it all really smooth. As we're getting close to the end of our interview with Megan, and I just want to note a couple of things. First of all, Megan, I hope you don't mind, but I know that you're very proud of your accomplishments at your age. Megan is 58 years old. Megan
I'm
holds
59.
59 years old.
Woo.
Megan holds, and I had to write them down because these are quite a bit. Megan holds a 50 to 54 50-mile road record, and this is the USA record at 6:19. She holds a 55 to 59 50K track at 3:56, which is also an age group world record. The 55 to 59 50-mile track at 6:44, 6 hours and 44 minutes for 50 miles. 55 to 59 100K track at 8:41, and the 55 to 59 100K road at 8:02, which is also an age group world record. So Megan, it's to say the least. I know that I get the opportunity to call you my friend, to see you in the trails, to hang out with you, but your accomplishments are far and beyond what any of us could ever comprehend. So thank you for sharing this time with us.
Nice.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And so just got some great questions there. I think some people got some really good information from you, and obviously you have that coaching mindset and just kind of like the way that you it sounds like can just nurture runners and kind of bring them up. That pays back to the sport, and then like you were talking about getting other people of color, other populations involved, in this sport that we all love so much. It's just going to make it better. It's just going to enrich everyone's experience. So I really appreciate you, like Paulo said, taking the lead on that. And yeah, I hope we can have something going on at the aid station soon. And I'd certainly love to support that and get involved with that, as well as I'm sure a lot of us would on this call. So thanks.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And huge shout out to your fellow North Face athlete, Corey, who is a person of color and
Yes.
and a gay runner, and he has been running the Ice Age Trail, which is 1,250 miles long. It's he's on day 18, and he's still moving forward. He's had some ankle issues.
Yeah,
but,
he's had an ankle injury that started to pull him back a little bit, but he's getting there.
Mm-hmm. So yes, from Truckee and Auburn, Corey, we send you all the positive vibes that you need.
That's awesome.
All right. Okay, I think that culminates our 6th episode of the Mile 99 interview series. Thanks everybody for joining in from the comfort of your living room or office, or like Reggie that is up in the mountains. Yes, but thank you for joining us. Hope to see you next Thursday, 7 p.m., right after Thirsty Thursday.